Yeah, so obviously very excited for the 25 season, coming off the, I guess the two best years in program history, back-to-back trips to the World Series. Um, Similar to last year, I think it's easy to get caught up in expectations of what this team should be and shouldn't do and can do. We honestly probably haven't spent a ton of time, talking about that stuff. Just I think the benefit of the players that we have on this team and what we've done the last 2 years is we know what it takes. 23 was, in some ways easier, obviously, than 24, but both years were great learning experience. We know that we have the capability to achieve great things, but really on a daily basis, we spend most of our energy just talking about what it takes to get back there, what it takes to get better. And 25 is going to be very, very similar to 23 and 2024, where we have a really competitive, tough non-conference schedule early in the year that hopefully will put us in a good position this year with the NPI stuff. But more importantly, that will prepare us for a very, very tough ODAC schedule. It always is. Last year, multiple teams in regionals, 2 teams in the World Series. We know that that's going to be a tough year every year, and trying to prepare ourselves the best we can to be ready when conference play comes around.
Coach, you talked a little bit about expectations. How much has the bar changed in terms of goals and expectations for this team in the last 5 years?
Yeah, it's obviously, when Coach Jones and I got here in the summer of 17, it was about changing the culture and trying to find the right guys and learning how to do things, learning how to win. And we've been very fortunate going back all the way to 21 when we won the ODAC championships in 21 and competed in a crazy good regional in 21 with the eventual national champion Salisbury in there. We're blessed where, we don't really talk about it. We really, really don't. I think once you've kind of reached that level, these guys show up and they have the expectations. We don't need to reinforce them. We don't need to talk about them. We understand that it's really hard and it doesn't just happen. Yet last year was a great reminder of that. But, again, our expectation is how do we just prepare each and every day to put us in a position to be successful throughout the year and hopefully be in a position to make a postseason run, whether that's, getting hot and having to win a really tough ODAC tournament or maybe putting ourselves in a position to maybe get an at-large like we were in 2022. But both of those very difficult, but blessed, coaching the players that we have, we really don't talk about it at all. We really don't.
Coach, you kind of touched on the difficult schedule that you had leading into the ODAC play, and then obviously the ODAC is a really difficult conference as well. How intentional was that kind of formulating a difficult schedule, and how excited are you for that?
Yeah, intentional. We'll see how well it works, with the computer stuff now. We got North Carolina Wesleyan open up down there. Back-to-back regionals, back-to-back 30-plus wins. We went down there and played in the regional in 23. We know how good they're going to be. Spalding's in that tournament, 31 wins last year, regional team, 2 preseason All-Americans. The following week is a really cool thing. This will be the second year we're playing in it, in a little Greensboro tournament down there, the D3 Showcase, where we play Cortland, who's year in and year out, a great program, regional last year, Marietta that has multiple national championships and an elite program. We're playing Oswego State. Yeah, it's intentional. I think, our guys want to play those teams. I think they enjoy that level of competition, opening up at Birmingham Southern last year and then that Greensboro tournament. In a lot of ways, they feel like regionals. Some ways that Greensboro tournament felt a little bit like a World Series, with the caliber of teams down there. It's fun to watch the guys play in those environments. And I think it gives us the capability of when we are in those settings, whether it's an ODAC tournament, regional, super regional, World Series, we're able to relax because we play those competitions. We've been successful against those type of opponents. So I think it's, going back to, again, what Coach Jones put in place starting probably even before 21, but certainly 21, going down and opening up in tournaments like at Birmingham Southern and stuff like that is intentional to put those teams in front of our guys and gives us that experience for sure.
These obviously with both Coach Garcia stepping away and Coach Jones going down to Notre Dame, how does it feel implementing a new assistant coach into the program?
Yeah, we're very fortunate to have the staff we have. We've been very fortunate to have the staff that we've had, going back even to Coach Ellis who's the head coach at UNC Greensboro now. Man, we could do a whole press conference on the Garcias and Coach Jones alone. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Continuity, you see it in the NFL this week with coordinators taking jobs, and every season's a different season. This is certainly going to be probably the first unique challenge that we've had from a coaching staff standpoint in quite a while. The continuity, and I think more than anything, the relationships that we've had as a coaching staff and even our support staff, right? Friends, play golf together, hang out together, talk baseball together. It contributes to some success in some form. I don't know how much, but it never feels like work, coming to work, and blessed. Again, we've been able to add Luke Lowry to our staff, who's helped with our catching and our hitting. He'll coach third this year. Played at East Carolina, played in the dominant back system. Most recently, coached down at IMG in Florida, and then PDG in Virginia. Coach Cam Lane, who played for us, has stepped into a much bigger role this year, recruiting, working with our hitters, infielders, base running. He's been invaluable, and we've added a new volunteer younger coach, Cameron Caro, who comes to us, played at Shenandoah the last 2 years, obviously played on some great teams under some great coaches there, has great experience. And then Mike Solbach, who's been with us since we first got here, has stepped up into a full-time role working with our pitchers more. He's basically done it for the last 8 years. Every pitch that I called as a pitching coach, like, Mike, what do you think? I was less help for him last year than he was the previous 6 for me. Does a great job not only on game day, but working with our pitchers on a daily basis. So while it would be hard to beat the staffs that we've had in the past, I don't think that's our goal. I think it's trying to just hire the best people we can have that enjoy coaching baseball. And those guys have done a great job. They're a ton of fun to work with. But it'll hit me that first game. Looking around in that dugout and not having Skip in there and OG bouncing around and Gabe slapping a dugout wall, getting fired up. Like, it'll hit me that first game, but we're still in a great place and very fortunate to have the coaches that we have.
Kind of on that same topic, you guys too is right. How do you guys feel about the coaching staff this year, and how excited are you to kind of get ready for the season?
I mean, I've only been here for a short period of time, so I really haven't been able to really have a lot of different conversations with Coach Lowry. Not to say that I haven't had productive conversations with him, because I have. But, I mean, both the guys being OG and Coach Lowry, they both have a different type of motor and a love for the players in the game. So, I mean, the transition's going to be different, but I still think they'll be really good for the team.
When you mentioned not having a whole lot of time here so far, in the brief stint that you've had with Lynchburg thus far, what can you say is different about the way things are done with Lynchburg?
I mean, compared to high school, because that's all I have to go off of, I mean, just the guys around here, we mesh pretty well. We work hard. We all want to win. I mean, you see it down at the field. You see it in the weight room, just guys getting after it, getting on each other about, getting down on the field, getting your swings in, getting your reps in. It's just guys come here to win, talented or not. I mean, I'm not saying we're not talented, but, people who are less talented, they work and they produce for the team. So.
Nick, you want to talk about what it's been like working with Solbach versus me? So Nick's been here, this is his 5th year, so 3 years under me as pitching coach, and the last 2, more Solbach stepping into that role, and I'm sure that's an adjustment.
Yeah, it's a little bit of adjustment. Honestly, I think both of you guys coach in a different way, but both of you give a lot of good help. I think Solbach, if I want help from him, though, I have to ask a little bit more, whereas if I'm doing something wrong, he'll just kind of tell me right to my face. But I think it's a good thing. So, but I mean, it's definitely different. So.
Is all the transfers this season were either pitchers or outfielders? Was that an intentional process to fill those positions you need, and what have you seen out of those guys so far?
Yeah, for sure. We picked up one catcher, Joey Duffer, at the summer as well. But yeah, I mean, I think with every roster, you're looking at maybe where you can plug a hole or maybe get a little bit better. We've been very, very fortunate since, even going back to pre-COVID or post-COVID, we have not necessarily brought in a lot of transfers, but we've been able to bring in players that are not only a good fit baseball-wise and have been productive in different ways, but also just culture, personality, And I think with each new transfer we bring in, we very much lay that out of like, here are the guys that have come before you. This is why it's been successful, because it's tricky, whether they're coming in the summer or they're coming in the winter. It's a balance of maintaining that culture and that successful ingredients, if you will. So I think finding the right people, just like out of high school, it's very, very important. Right people, yeah, talent set, skill set, position, but personality, work ethic, desire, because, transfers sound great and bringing in a whole bunch and they got experience and you know what they're going to be, kind of. But it's also very delicate because it can, there's guys that are here that have been here for 3, 4, 5 years that sometimes have waited their time or have had roles established. And, if you bring in guys that don't mesh well, culture and personality, it can work against you. It looks good on paper, but, when you put it out there as a product on the field, it can really work against you. But I think the three, so we brought in 2 over the summer and 1 over the winter break. I think all 3 are extraordinary individuals. They bring a lot of different elements that are beneficial off the field to the program, but I think they have the capability of hopefully helping on the field as well, just like we had some guys last year with Quinn Madden, O'Kelly McWilliams, and certainly years before, going back to Avery Neves, transferring in here and being here for 3 years.
Yeah, Coach Bees talks a lot about this group mesh. How do you feel like the off-season has been beneficial for you guys gelling as a group in the locker room?
I think it's done us a lot of good, especially in the off season. Like, we don't have as long of practices as we will in the spring, so it's a lot more time for us to all hang out together. I can think of last semester we did this pickleball tournament, and I think that was really good for the team. We all got to mess around, hang out, and then we got to end it by playing kickball with the softball team. So we also got to mesh with other teams on the campus.
I got to know who won that pickleball tournament.
Pickleball.
I think Solbach and I did.
Yeah, probably.
If I remember correctly. No, we're old, so we set out quite a few matches, so we weren't as tired at the end. But who were the players? I'm trying to. Who do we?
I think you were playing Brandon's team, but I don't
Yeah,
remember whose
maybe.
team it was.
Yeah. If we didn't win, then we forgot. So that's the advantage of getting a little bit older. Selective memory.
Gavin or Nick can answer this question. Obviously, if Bees already said that you're a fifth year, Gavin, you're a fifth year too. Does that change anything with this year for you guys, whether it's leadership or the way you play the game?
Not really. I mean, being older, the only difference is the experience. You have more innings. He has them on the mound. I have him at the plate. From freshman to fifth year, all the guys go about it a certain way. We're not all leaders, but we contribute in ways that could give off that role, whether it be working hard in the weight room, like I said earlier, or working hard at the field.
I got one for Gavin. You got a chance to break some career records. Haven't done it yet, but do you think about that, and do you think about all the greats that you have already passed some of these people, and then you're going to pass some more, and some of them are your friends? What is that? What's your thought process?
Truthfully, I had no idea I was
Okay.
coming up on any records.
Well, you're not then.
Well, anyway, I don't even know what records I could be. What records am I?
Well, some just for longevity and
Okay,
games
cool.
played and those kinds of things.
Hit by pitch, probably, right?
Yeah, you can pass Cam Lane. you can
Coach
pass-
Lane.
It's a painful one, but I don't really think about those type of things. That wasn't my reason for coming back. It was mainly just to come win games and play with the guys from last season.
Final question. What do you think, in one word, describe your guys' team this year, like a characteristic of this year's team?
I don't think it probably hasn't been decided yet, right? I think certainly, I think for these two guys especially, just the commitment, to come back for a fifth year, when they have accomplished literally everything. They're class three championships, 4 straight regionals, 2 straight back-to-back World Series appearances, national championship. I think they very easily could have been, okay, great run, let's go do something else. Now, maybe they just don't want to enter that real world quite yet. But, so I think that commitment that they've shown just to, again, not just themselves, because they between the two of them have accomplished a ton of great individual things as well. But to come back, to delay their life, so to speak, the next phase of their life, to come back and play with their teammates and see what else might be in store for the next year. Because it's easy to sit there and be like, all right, we ended great, 24 was awesome, we're going to pick up right where we left off, but each year has its own story and have its own start, and there's risk to that. But I think certainly that might be the word at the beginning, but, every year, we'll see, I guess is probably the best answer for that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a tough recovery, but I felt like with our coaching staff and our players, they were always there for me, reaching out. Definitely made it a lot easier. I feel ready to go now, and I'm ready to help the team win in whatever way I need to.
How do you guys feel like, you're just a couple weeks out from the season? How excited are you to get started with the season?
I think everybody's excited. It's been a long fall and coming back into the spring. I think everybody's looking forward to actually getting out there and playing other people and being able to compete and really showing out how good we are as a team.
Is there a moment from last season that has really hung with this roster and this year's group that you guys have carried into this season?
I'll answer that. Hibachi trip to the Choice Hibachi after CNU scored quite a few runs in the ninth inning. That's how we ended our regular season, and it was like, man, this is tough. But that kind of got us right back on track, and I think our next game was up there in our next game we hosted Bridgewater in the first round of the ODAC, and that kind of two really competitive, great games, and then Wes's no-hitter, certainly in the ODAC Final Four, I think kind of got us on that right track. And so much, you watch whatever, you read whatever about this year's team. I know Wes's name gets mentioned a whole bunch, and we're fired up for him to go see what he can do at UVA this year, being on their roster. And we did graduate quite a few innings. But we're excited. We got 8 guys that were in the starting lineup back positionally. Obviously, lost a little bit in Wes's success in the postseason was Nick's success. Matt Phil's run, right behind him in the ODAC, and then, one out away from a complete game shutout in the World Series. And then probably the most impressive was his start at Case Western against, one of the best teams in the nation, one of the best lineups we faced in the nation, and bullpen guys coming back. Tapman out of the bullpen starting. McGuire was our third starter at the World Series, pitched a lot of key innings out of the pen. And then guys like Austin Riney, Mason McDowell, who threw a lot of key innings. So, we're excited to get out there and see what the work, that we've been putting in, kind of what that product is early on, and then more importantly, how we can get better through the year.
You mentioned missing a couple of key players that offered production last season. Has there been anyone in the offseason that has really impressed you and could become a name that we become quite familiar with at the end of this year's season?
Yeah, probably. We'll see. No, we got 8, like I said, 8 position guys back. Our starting infield's back. So those guys will probably be out there first game of the year. Quinn Madden was an All-American. He's going to be in the outfield. Logan was out there. Bryce was out there in left field. We got some young guys that have ability to maybe be plugged in out there. We got some young bats that have a chance to, whether it's on the field or DH or pitch hitting, and then certainly some young arms. So I think you're excited every year about the class that you have coming in. I don't know if it's an exact comparison to 23, but, in 23, when we won the national championship, so much, obviously, and rightfully so, was made of that senior class and that fifth-year class. Just so many great players, on the mound and in the lineup. But I think what sometimes people forget about, we had 3 freshmen in the starting lineup on that championship Thursday against Hopkins, and we had 4 freshmen that pitched on that day. So those guys are juniors now. We have a ton of guys that have a lot of just great experience, regular season experience, but more importantly, postseason experience, that I know are excited to kind of get out there and make a name for themselves, whether it's on the mound or in the lineup as well.
Kind of as a collective, as a team, personally, what are some goals you have set for the season, individually or as a team as a collective?
I think as a team, we all just want to go out there and win every game. It's more so, we're not looking ahead, but it's more so like game to game and bringing that intensity every single game. like it is the World Series or anything like close to that. Just make sure we can go out there and play the best we can every single game.
How has 2 consecutive years with deep postseason runs helped you guys this year?
I think it's experience. I mean, knowing what it takes from a day-to-day basis down at the field, in the weight room, off the field, making those decisions every day to prep yourself for that late in the year run. Knowing how to do that and being able to not only do it again yourself, but help show and coach in a way the guys coming in on what that takes and elevate the program like all as one and try to make that run again.
It's also just fun. Like, the guys have a blast. Like, they play better. Well, I don't know if they play better, but they play really well on those stage. And I think it's because it's just a lot of fun. You know, whether it's a regional or flying out to California for a super regional or on a World Series stage, you know, I think you leave those venues and those settings, certainly as a coach, but I think a player too, and you're like, man, I want to do that again. How do we get back there? And you're not taking it for granted, for sure. And last year, again, was a great reminder of how hard it is to put yourself in a position to be there. And certainly we don't want to take those experiences for granted. But you know, playing into June that's baseball weather, and that's when you're supposed to be playing, and that's a rarity at our level. And I know it's something that our guys are motivated by every single day, because once you get a taste of it, I mean, I think you just want to do it again and again. And I think that's why a couple of these guys came back this year. They want to experience that again.
Obviously, Eric and Logan, you guys are seniors. You guys were on the, I wouldn't say preseason trips that went down to Alabama twice, went down to Georgia. You guys are going to North Carolina this year. Did that change anything with how you guys play? You're obviously not in the warmest weather in North Carolina, like Alabama was warm. Did that change anything with your beginning of the season?
I don't think so at all. I mean, I don't think the weather really plays a factor, because even when we went to Alabama this past year, I think it was just as cold as the following weekend when we went to North Carolina. So I think it's just a good experience, and it's something fun we can do to start off the season, go travel and really mesh as a team to start off the season.
You guys have had the opportunity to play at a lot of different venues. What does the Lynchburg home experience feel like compared to those other trips being on the road?
Well, there's nothing like playing at Foxy.
Foxy.
I mean, it's our home. It's where we live every day. We love it here. We obviously have had a great winning experience at Foxy throughout the years, and nowhere is as good as playing here, in my opinion.
Yeah, great crowds, you know, and it's tough early in the year. Who wants to go sit outside when it's 30 degrees and watch 8 hours of baseball? But, you know, I think we're very fortunate, whether it's midweek games against local conference opponents or weekend games. Like, we always draw pretty well, and we have, we're, you know, again, incredibly fortunate. We have a great support base, families. I think probably most of us are, maybe not me, but a lot of us are really excited about those breakfasts on Saturday mornings before the doubleheaders. The parents get that grill going. I know that's a highlight of every year. And then same thing on the road and stuff like that. So it's always a little bit of a reminder that it's baseball season when they bring that grill out.
Coach, all three of you, we kind of talked about how difficult the schedule is going to be this year. Are there any particular games that you kind of have circled on the calendar that you're most excited for or looking forward to?
Like I said earlier, I think it's more of a game-to-game thing. We want to take every game as serious as every opponent. It doesn't really matter who we're really playing. I feel like we just want to go out there and be as competitive as we can be each and every inning.
Yeah, I think with the new format too, you know, with the NPI stuff, like, every game is obviously going to matter. Whether it's a high-quality opponent that you feel like is going to end up with a lot of wins at the end of the year, and you're trying to get, you know, points for that win, or teams that you're quote-unquote supposed to beat, but that doesn't exist in the ODAC. It really doesn't. You know, we fell victim of that last year. You know, guys that you know we're going to get their best, but even if it's not us, you know, every weekend is a challenge in the ODAC, especially when you go on the road, and that's a challenge in itself. Where early in the year with these tournaments, you know, you're going to face high-caliber opponents, and maybe it's a little easier to get up for. But going and sweeping a doubleheader on the road is difficult no matter who you play, but it's especially difficult in the ODAC. So just embracing each and every opportunity to play and know that it's going to be good baseball regardless, and focusing on our brand of baseball, and know that if we play ours, we got a pretty good shot of coming out on top. Not guaranteed, but we got a good shot.
With the success that you guys have had in the last couple of years, both in the conference and on the national landscape, for a lot of teams, you are the team to beat on a day in, day out basis. How do you handle that?
I mean, from a player standpoint, it's kind of what we've been saying. We've been lucky enough to have guys that we really just approach every game to win. We know we're going to get people's best, but we're also looking to give everyone our best every time we step out there. So I don't think it changes our mindset knowing what they're going to bring to us. I think it just kind of pumps us up knowing we're going to get that challenge.
Last week in D3 baseball, you guys came out in the top 10 for the preseason poll. How much was that talked about, if at all?
I don't really think much at all.
Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, obviously it's cool to see and everything, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really mean much, and you just got to go out there and prove it that we are one of the better teams in the country. So it really it's a cool thing, but it's nothing big to us, I feel like.
We talked about earlier how you lost Wes this year, but you're also gaining Tyler Caldwell. Are you excited to see him after he wasn't allowed to play last year? Are you excited to see him how he does in that conference?
Yeah, obviously, 100 innings from Wes, is a huge loss, but a fun loss. Again, he's doing something really, really cool, and I know him and his family are really excited about that. Wes is from Charlottesville, and opportunity to play for one of the best programs in the nation. But I think it's a theme that repeats itself for the last few years, right? And I think we take a little bit of pride in that where, okay, after 22 was Grayson, and I think everybody was so, for a lot of reasons, excited to see Grayson leave, at least opponents. But Grayson was, really good, an All-American, and, to sit there after the 22 season and be like, all right, who's going to fill that void? And then you roll out Jack Batchmore, who was an All-American the next year and had arguably more impressive stat column than Grayson, and Grayson's year in 22 was crazy. And then you lose Batchmore after, with injury and some different things coming into the 24 season. So you're sitting there, all right, who's going to replace him, along with Potts and Pond after the 23 year. And obviously guys like Nick Matfield had already done it early in his career, but stepped up and was consistent throughout the year. Wes, stepping up into his new role. And then some newer arms with McGuire and Tapman and other guys. We take a lot of pride in kind of, all right, who's that next guy up? Who's going to be the next guy to fill that role? And I'm sure TK, along with other guys, are excited by that opportunity. Whether it's 100 innings or not, who knows? But I think they're guys that are motivated, be like watching that success of him, along with a lot of other guys, be like, I can do that. That's something I can do, because it certainly wasn't easy throughout their careers for any of those guys. Whether it be Grayson or Potts or Pond, or Batchmore or Wes. All those guys have had ups and downs, but to watch those guys be successful, more importantly, to watch how they worked, I think is the most valuable thing you're going to take away from those guys. So I'm sure he's excited, but he's going to have to take one game at a time as well.